It is indeed called the supercar of the modern aviation world. The fastest in its class, it has already made a splash worldwide. The beginning of 2024, after 2 decades of regular passenger flights, marked a new era. The era of the return of supersonic aviation. On January 12th of this year, a truly momentous and significant event indeed occurred for all of civil aviation. NASA and Lockheed Martin unveiled the experimental supersonic aircraft X-59, the first and only passenger jet of the 21st century, and groundbreaking. What is this civilian fighter capable of? Is it worth expecting the return of supersonic travel? And when will the X-59 make its first flight? This and more today in Arsenal. Its story initially began back in the year 2015. That's when work on the ambitious X-59 started. The collaborative project was undertaken by Lockheed Martin and NASA. The contract cost nearly $250 million. There is nothing new in the idea of supersonic travel. Back in the 70s, the European Concorde and the Soviet Tu-144 made such flights over the Atlantic, but their operation were short-lived. The aircraft turned out to be very expensive to operate, harmful to the environment, and also caused numerous problems when flying at supersonic speeds, and later were deemed extremely dangerous. As a result, after the crash of the Tu-144 and later the Concorde, ultra-fast flights had to be discontinued.
The planes flew exclusively over the Atlantic Ocean, nowhere else. But there were attempts to redirect them to other routes, but they were neither profitable nor feasible. And in general, for environmental reasons, they were not launched because flying at supersonic speeds over densely populated areas is fraught with environmental issues.
In particular, for this reason, since 1973, the United States has banned all commercial supersonic flights over land. And it was precisely the desire to circumvent this ban that became the driving force behind the creation of the X-59.
The team used advanced technologies such as augmented reality, robotic manufacturing, 3D modeling, and the latest methods to reduce aircraft assembly.
Besides ecology, the main problem engineers faced was the significant effects of the sonic boom on the human body. Flights over cities by such commercial aircraft have never been allowed in history, and this restriction is in place for a reason. To understand the destructive power of a sound wave, a simple example is enough.
There was an example well known in Nejin. There was a regiment of bombers, reconnaissance aircraft, more precisely the Tu-144. So, once the plane broke the sound barrier at a low altitude. As a result, all the windows in the department store in the city center were shattered, and those windows were a centimeter thick.
However, the engineers of the American X-59 have apparently managed to minimize this impact. Their main achievement, they claim, is an extremely smooth transition to supersonic speed, as well as positioning the jet engine in such a way that all vibrations go into the atmosphere, not onto the Earth's surface.
This is exactly what he will allow it to be used quite widely. That's it. That is, there will be fewer restrictions than there were for large supersonic aircraft that created powerful shock waves.
For this, they had to work on the shape of the aircraft. For many years, engineers using the principles of computational aerodynamics worked on the perfect contours of their creation.
You can very quickly switch between geometries and then analyze them on a computer to see how this shape helps us reduce the sonic boom and then modify the shape to make the aircraft quieter.
As a result, with the noise level permissible under American law, the X-59 can reach the speed of military jets, about 1,500 kilometers per hour. But that's in the air. And what about the issue of takeoff and landing directly at civilian airports? According to Western analysts, this is exactly what NASA and Lockheed Martin are currently working on.
I think one of the main problems is takeoff and landing. This happens even before you reach supersonic speed. You will obviously have to take off from airports and land there as well. And the engines of these supersonic planes have historically been very, very loud.
However, this issue is also solvable, say the developers. This year, the X-59 begins its supersonic tests, including over volunteer cities. During these flights, takeoffs and landings, engineers plan to hear the final decision from the authorities on their project. And they also hope to repeal one of the American aviation laws that has remained unbreakable for half a century. Technically, the novelty of supersonic civil aviation can be assessed only after all the tests are completed. As of today, it is known that its length is almost 30 meters and the wingspan is 9. The weight of the X-59 is 9 tons. At the same time, it can carry an additional 5,500 kilograms. The declared maximum speed is 1,590 kilometers per hour. The issue of the windshield in the X-59 is solved in a rather unusual way. Considering the revolutionary shape of the fuselage, they decided to forego it altogether, replacing it with a camera that transmits the image to the cockpit. Thanks to this, a lot of additional information that assists the pilot was able to be displayed on the monitor.
Essentially, this monitor is very similar to a heads-up display that you can see in a fighter jet. Therefore, the flight speed is indicated on the left and the altitude on the right. I can see what my horizon is, the flight path, vector, and the marker by which I navigate. This greatly facilitates the flight and provides far more possibilities than if it were just a window.
Now it's time to see how all this works in practice. If the tests in 2024 are successful, many analysts predict the return of supersonic commercial flights. And the X-59 has every chance to become the Bugatti Chiron of the aviation world. After all, owning such an aircraft will become the most obvious sign of luxury for the world's wealthiest people. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss new episodes of Arsenal.